Joining me now is our reporter and our tour guide to Israel, Aaron Levarko. He is a licensed tour guide for like 30 years in Israel. And as you know, he's been making videos for us. Latest, the Dead Sea. I'm sure he's got another one coming up. You'll find it on worldviewtube.com on demand if you didn't see it the other night. But tonight, I want to talk to Aaron about Tucker Carlson. That boy has gone off the rails. And now he's interviewing a lady by the name of Mother Agapia, Mother Agapia Stephanopoulos. Well, that's an interesting name, Stephanopoulos. Any relation to George? Well, we did a little research, and turns out I think that's George Stephanopoulos' sister. So Tucker Carlson basically now, I guess, has become a mouthpiece for the left to the right. He's the mouthpiece of the left to reach the right. Is that what's going on here? Is that what he's become? I think it is, in my opinion. You gotta hear some of these clips, because she's a self-described, I guess, mother. I mean, is she Catholic? I don't know. Let's get into it with Aaron. We're gonna play some clips. Aaron Levarko from Israel. Hello, Aaron.
Hi, Brannon.
So, Mother Agapia Stephanopoulos. Wow. I'm going to try to be nice, but I thought it was a dude that needed to shave, had a mustache when I saw her first, but what do I know? Who is this mother?
Well,
I don't know. Guys in the control room are laughing, okay? I'm not hurling a pejorative at her. Although her last name sounds like you're asking your mother to stop the car so you can go use the bathroom. But anyway, I'm just saying, I'd be changing my name. Mother Agapia. You know?
She. All I know about her is she is Catholic. She's a Catholic nun, and she's lived in the region for a number of years. And she's been outspoken, sharing. She's got a platform, and she's sharing her experiences. And everyone has a story. Some people put it in book form. These days, there are many different platforms, Facebook, Instagram, and all that. And she somehow she knows how to talk. She's got a gift of communication. And so people have been elevating her and opening doors for her to share her stories. Sadly for Israel, it doesn't really put a nice light on us.
No, I guess not. All right, let's go to the first one. She talks about Israel's apartheid system. Now, I've dealt with this. Boy, if you guys are running an apartheid system, it's one of the nicest ones I've ever seen, because you actually will go over to Ethiopia, pick up black Jews, and bring them back. And you've been doing this since the George H. Bush administration with the help of U.S. Senator Rudy Boschwitz, the lumber king. For those of you from Minnesota, he had a big lumber facility, stores, like lumber factory or whatever it was called. And he became a U.S. senator, and he's a Jewish man, and he raised the money like in a few hours from Jews all over America and the world to bring the Ethiopian Jews out of Ethiopia who are being persecuted to Israel, and then assimilate them and teach them and train them and get them jobs. And you guys are a bunch of racist apartheid folks over there. Terrible. I mean, that's what we're supposed to believe. I'm not buying it. Here's what she has to say. Here's what this mother has to say. Let's see. Here we go.
Either side of the wall. So in April of 2005, I went to Washington and spoke to some congresspeople, not to demean Jews or not to even demean the state of Israel, to say, look, we are being affected by this wall. It's affecting our religious life. I can't go to visit my convent easily anymore because of this wall. It's disrupting our school life. And we'd like to see, it's not for security. It's not separating Israel from Palestine. It's separating Palestine from Palestine in the two. I get back home.
I'm sorry, what kind of reception did you see? You went to Congress?
Yeah, and there were a handful. Actually, I remember a very sweet occurrence. He's died since, but Senator Paul Wellstone of Minnesota, I was scheduled to meet him, and he wasn't there, but then he came and he literally ran down the hall to catch me. So there are a few people that were sympathetic, but overall, no. And I even felt the sense when I was talking to people that that like I went to a meeting where there were a few aides there of different Congress people, right? Not just in one office, and just felt as if there was someone there watching what he was saying or doing going on. So anyway, so I get
Did
that.
you meet with any Christian church leaders
show that.
here in the U.S.?
Unfortunately, I mean, the Catholic Church has done a lot and said a lot, but I sad to say, I feel the Orthodox Church in America has been very reluctant to speak out on this issue.
Why?
Or to get involved. Maybe sometimes I think it's just simply awareness. Even when people go on pilgrimages to the Holy Land, they probably have Israeli tour guides, and they don't, it's an amazing experience to go to the Holy Land. It's overwhelming to be, a pious person to go there, and you're thinking about going to see where Jesus was, and here I'm on the Sea of Galilee, and you don't really perceive what that wall means, or who are those people living over there, or how come there's only cars with yellow plates here. And then we were in Jericho, and I saw these green and white plates. What does that mean going on? They don't understand it, so they don't get the concept.
What does
You're
a
only there
yellow
for 2 weeks.
license plate mean?
Yellow plate is for people who live in the state of Israel, and they can go on certain roads, all roads, and for Palestinians who have a Jerusalem ID are allowed to have a car with a yellow plate. And then Palestinians have green and white plates, and they cannot use. So over that time that I've been here, as the settlements have grown, you build the infrastructure for it. The electricity, the roads, separate roads that are used only by people that have yellow plates. As a foreigner and part of a foreign church, we were entitled to have either those, or they also have white diplomatic plates, that kind of diplomatic and religious plates that are there. So there's very much an apartheid system.
Wow. Are you sure this mother isn't a brother? I don't know. Is that George Stephanopoulos' sister or brother? I'm a little confused, but anyway. Huh? I know. I was wondering if that was actually George. He just put on a headdress and a glasses. I don't know. This is very disturbing. I'm not being real nice tonight, but I'm also not being nice on purpose, because I don't think she's being very nice, and I'm getting irritated by her. I've only listened to one clip so far. I don't know if I'm going to make it through with this mother. What do you make of that? She's crying over. Are you sure that's not George wearing a headdress? Go to George. I think that's George. Can you do a side by side? I think this is George. George, come on. They're pulling our leg, right? Yeah, look at that. Look at the family resemblance there. All right, so you're in apartheid state because you have different colored license plates based on where people live. The horror. Aaron?
Well, the first question I would ask is, what is her agenda here? If she stands up to be a Christian or a Catholic, a member of the body of Christ, then where is her message of the gospel, the message of salvation, the message of forgiveness? Instead, she's talking about this apartheid. And I mean, I've written down 3 things that she just, for example, she said that the wall that's been erected there, it's not a wall separating Israel from the Palestinians. It's a wall that's separating Palestinians from the Palestinians. Brannon, that is just not true. Ariel Sharon, our previous prime minister, he spent billions of shekels erecting that wall around the West Bank to keep terrorism out. So the question I would ask her is, why do you think Israel has put that wall up, madam? Do we just get up out of bed one day and we think we've got nothing better to do? We're going to waste our time and waste our money putting up walls for no reasons? Or is it because there are troublemakers? And I genuinely feel sorry for people like her, she's not a terrorist, in my opinion, but she is an innocent one who has to suffer because people in the Palestinian Authority areas, there are terrorists. And
so instead of blaming the terrorists, she wants to blame Israel that you have to do these security procedures.
That's exactly the problem. That's where she's got her focus wrong. And here's the big thing. She seems to be complaining that Palestinians can't go there, Palestinians can't go here, and Israelis have one license plate, Palestinians have another. Let me remind her and the viewers that in 1948 and in 1967, the state of Israel offered any Arab living in that territory Israeli citizenship with full rights. And a lot of Arabs said, no, we don't recognize the state of Israel. We're not interested in recognizing the state of Israel. We want to call ourselves Palestinians. So you know what Israel did? They said, okay, you don't want to recognize us. We're not going to give you full rights, but we're going to let you live in peace. We're going to put some fences around where we need to. And that's your territory, and this is our territory. They had a chance. They had an opportunity to have full rights. Now, many Arabs actually took that chance. They are called Arab Israelis, and they have yellow license plates.
But she couldn't point that out because that would destroy the narrative, apparently.
Oh, exactly. So why are, in many ways, she's right. There is segregation. There is.
But it's self-imposed segregation because they did it themselves.
Number one, it's self-imposed, and number two, you've got to. It's like the shepherds of old. They had to separate the sheep, the goats. They had to put their sheep in pens to keep them away from the wolves. Is that segregation? Yes, it's to protect.
But it's not out of racism.
It's not.
Because if that was the case, why would you let Arabs be in your Knesset and on your Supreme Court?
There you go. What you've just said is the key. There is segregation, but it's not out of racism. Absolutely not. Now, listen, like you say all the time and like I say all the time, Israel's not perfect. Of course, we have individuals that are racist. We have Jews that don't like Jews. We have some white Jews who don't like the black Ethiopian Jews, but these are minor cases. Our government, our society does not accept it. So, madam, if you're watching this, I'm sorry, but there is segregation, but it's not out of racism.
Yeah, and it's largely due to the fact for national security because of terrorism. All right, she says that Israel is stealing Christian land. I want to deal with that when we come back. Aaron Levarko is our reporter on the ground in Israel, our tour guide as well. LightToTheNationsMinistry.com is his website. He's brought to you by our foundation. We send him regular love offerings to help produce these tours he's giving us, like the Dead Sea and so many other places, and to give us reports and education like this. So please support our foundation if you would. WorldviewFoundation.com, WorldviewFoundation.com. All right? Hold right there, Aaron. We'll be right back after this break. More stunning audio and video clips from Tucker Carlson's recent interview with Mother Agapia Stephanopoulos. That's her name, Mother Agapia Stephanopoulos. George Stephanopoulos' sister. That's what they tell us. Don't go away. We'll be right back.
You woke up with a sore throat and a low-grade fever. You know you are getting sick, so here's your choices. You can get sicker and miss work. Try to see a doctor this week or sit hours in a crowded waiting room at urgent care.
I have a smarter option for you. Open your medical emergency kit. Match your symptoms to doctor-recommended prescription in your booklet and take the right meds now and get well faster.
This is not a first aid kit. It's like having an urgent care in your home. It includes doctor-prescribed medications to treat over 39 medical issues like respiratory infections, strep throat, pneumonia, UTIs, and more.
No waiting to see the doctor and no standing in line at the pharmacy. It's right here.
Every home should have at least one medical emergency kit, and here's how to order.
Go to worldviewhealthcare.com. Your kit to treat dozens of common and serious illnesses is rushed to your door. worldviewhealthcare.com. That's worldviewhealthcare.com.
The emergency kit available at worldviewhealthcare.com. Make sure you don't have to go to urgent care. I got pneumonia. I didn't have to go. I took this last year. Stayed at home. Went to bed. All right, welcome back from the break. As always, thank you for watching. And remember, we are brought to you by you. We are a listener-supported network. WorldviewFoundation.com. WorldviewFoundation.com. Another way you can support us is to join up for our vault. worldviewtube.com/vault, have access to 35 years. That's right. We've been doing this a long time. I've been doing this 35 years by God's grace. My radio shows, TV shows, ebooks, audiobooks, transcripts, documentaries, conferences, all my Worldview weekends for our 21 years now in there of the national conference. Been doing Worldview weekends since 1993, but 21 years of our national conferences are in there as well. So much more. If you're a Vault member, you get to live stream a lot of special things. Hey, guess what's coming up on October 7th or 9th? Let me check a look here, folks. I think it's October 9th. Let's see here. Yep, October 9th. We're going to have Catherine Austin Fitz. Catherine Austin Fitz in studio. And for the first hour, she'll be with me live on radio and TV. The second hour, only for Vault members. Only for members of the Vault. So if you want to hear all of what Catherine Austin Fitz has to say, you're going to have to be a Vault member. And if you want to stream our national conference coming up, October 3rd and 4th, you're going to miss out not being here. You really are. But if you can make it and you want to be a Vault member, you can live stream Friday night, all day Saturday, into Saturday evening. As a Vault member, worldviewtube.com/vault. worldviewtube.com/vault. You have to have a yearly membership to live stream the conference. You need to have a yearly membership if you want to live stream the conference. What we don't want is someone signing up for a month and then canceling. So that just doesn't make it worth it, folks. We can't pay the bills that way. So if you want to stream that conference, you have a year membership, you'll be able to do it. worldviewtube.com/vault. All right, joining me again is our reporter and tour guide out of Israel, Aaron Levarko. We're talking about Mother Agapia Stephanopoulos. And she was on with good old Tucker Carlson, who just keeps going off the rails. He apparently has become the mouthpiece of the left to the right. And now let's go to the next clip of this mother and see what she has to say. Here we go.
Now we're getting to the small thousands. I just received a call the other day. Jacob's Well is in the large city of Nablus, in the center of the West Bank, which has been grievously raids take place all the time, and it's very difficult. But what happened the other day was that a Christian-run factory in Nablus, there's about 600 families, around 600 Christians, a number of churches, and Jacob's Well, which is a very important site to us. We always go there on a pilgrimage when we can. And their factory, no warning, no permit. First, on June 26th, I believe, the Israeli army came in and confiscated some of the factory equipment. And then 2 weeks later, they came and blew up a big portion of the factory. So how are people supposed to have they gave no reason. There was no permit. They have they have lawyers. There has been, as far as I know, to this date, no court order, no reason. And the only thing, quickly what popped into my head, because it is a metal making factory. Okay, they must be using it to make weapons, right? These are Christians who have been there for decades, the centuries, I think, even the family. And it's a well-known business. All right. And no order was given. And I almost feel a little worried about saying anything, because I don't know what the repercussions will be with that family, because they have no recourse. Who do they go to?
Where's Ted Cruz in all this? Ted Cruz talks about how he's a Christian. Mike Johnson, as the Speaker of the House, talks about how he's a Christian.
Well,
they talk about it a lot, actually.
I think they have to. We have to. I'm not sure that it can be done by. We have to battle AIPAC and the Christian Zionists by the Christians standing up, say, not in my name. We can't be doing this. So if they're getting money from these organizations, then Christians have to have enough concern to say, I don't want this happening in my name.
No, and to my brothers in Christ.
Right, exactly. And not only it's the real people, the living stones that are there that keep the churches open, that keep things going, but also for our Christian legacy. You know, we're supposedly a country based on a Judeo-Christian heritage, right? But so where is that Judeo-Christian heritage when you're destroying the very foundations of it? St. Jerome translated the Bible in Bethlehem. The cells where he was at are under the Church of the Nativity. You know, the very roots of our Christian heritage are there, and we're letting it be destroyed. Not physically physically by killing the people, but also there's a wonderful person. When you talk about resistance.
All right, let me just stop right there. First of all, I thought maybe she just had a dark shadow.
this whole
I think this individual, that's a full-on mustache, isn't it, Logan? Are you? Oh, wow. I think you can, I don't know. I think you can take care of that. Can you not? What is going on here? Really kind of disturbing to be the whole thing is. And then Tucker Carlson's questions, you know, he plays dumb. He plays dumb, you know. What is she talking about anyway? Does she gives off a lot of information, but doesn't seem to give a lot of facts. What is she talking about this building? You're muted. You're muted.
There, unmute. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yeah. So I know very well what she's talking about, Brannon. And once again, she's right. There are times that the Israeli Defense Forces, the IDF, they come in and they blow up factories. But I would, if I was sitting over a cup of tea or drink with her, I would look her in the face and I would say, sister, why do the IDF do that? Just because they've got nothing else to do? Do you really think that they want to blow up or destroy ancient holy sites like Jacob's Well? It's not rational. So what's going on? And I'm really glad she said, well, we're Christians. Just a week and a half ago, Brannon, in the city that I live, Netanya, I was helping a man who has a ministry to the last generation of Holocaust survivors. One of the men that he had as his chef was a Christian man who grew up in the West Bank, which is where she's talking about, Nablus. He told me his testimony. He said, I grew up hating Israel. I was a terrorist. I fought against the IDF. This is a Christian man. So the moment that I hear factory that's blown up, what do I think of, Brannon? A bomb-making factory. Now, I can't say for sure that that case was a bomb factory, but come on. You know, our IDF have a very high standard of morality. They are not above the law. They are accountable. They didn't just go in and do it for no reasons, number one. Number two, there are Muslims in the West Bank, Judea and Samaria, which she's talking about. The Muslims are the biggest persecutors of the Christians, not the Israelis. We actually want to protect the Christians. What I would say, and I know this for sure, that there are some Arab Christian leaders who are against the state of Israel. They preach in their pulpits against the state of Israel. They're into liberation theology. They're into replacement theology. There have been cases over the years where some Christian religious leaders, they will smuggle weapons. They will smuggle terrorists in and out of the Judea and Samaria. So this is what I would say to this dear sister, that you've got half of the facts right.
Wait, half of the truth is a lie.
That's right. It's a half truth. A half truth. Exactly.
Well, but half of the truth is a lie.
That's right. You're right, Brannon. Totally right. And that's
because
what
she's
I would
presenting
say.
A story that's not in context, and I think deliberately so, in my opinion.
Yeah, and that's what I would also say to her. I would say, do you really want to know the other side, or have you just made
Tucker
up your
Carlson
mind?
doesn't apparently want to know the other side because he doesn't seem to ever have anyone on refuting her. Why doesn't he have someone on after her saying, you heard the interview from the mother, what do you think?
And this is the thing. People like this, if they're open-minded and say, hey, let's hear from
We're
the other
doing
side.
both sides right now. Why can't he?
That's right. And you know, I meet Catholic nuns all around the country because we have many Catholic churches. We have Greek Orthodox churches, Russian Orthodox churches. I have some very good friends who are Armenian priests. very, very good close friends. So, and I see that, in my estimation, she's a true believer. But when you get poisoned with half-truths or the victim mentality side, or just simply playing the victim or siding with the victim, that's a very dangerous.
You're being very nice and gracious and kind, and that's.
I am being nice because I want to be nice.
Yeah.
Because I am, but I'm also calling her out.
Okay, but you're being very gracious because, and I'm not saying you're wrong to be nice and kind and gracious, but where does this woman get her funding? Okay, that's what I want to know. Who is funding her or her organization? I want to know the paper trail. Follow the money. Just as I wrote my book, Marxianity. Marxianity came out in 2018. Nobody's got to buy it. I thought I had a copy somewhere. It's 300 some odd pages, absolutely free for anyone that's a Vault member. It's a PDF in there. You don't even have to buy it. We put it in there for Vault members for free. And you're going to see that I'm talking about all the Marxism and cultural Marxism that has been incorporated into, quote, Christianity. Marxianity, Marxism and Christianity merging together. And the historical record of how it happened, including liberation theology, which he just mentioned, replacement theology, this demonic belief that the modern church, the church, has been replaced Israel has been replaced by the modern church, that God has no plan for the Jewish people because he's now just replaced them. So, but I do that in that book. I trace all that. So I want to know who funds this woman, because whoever pays the piper, picks the tune, right? So
that's right.
Has someone given her this song to sing?
Well, Brannon, it could be, but it also could be that she is just playing to the tune of what she's being taught from the pulpit. Because a lot of these Arab Christians...
We are talking about George Stephanopoulos' sister here, we're told. So these people are leftist. I think she's a leftist. She's welcome on my show, by the way. Mother, you want to come on? Have at it. Come on. And we can go live so it can't be edited and you can say your piece. All right? But I'm thinking, in my opinion, she's a leftist. So if she wants to know the truth, it's out there to be found. So I want to know who funds her.
Yeah, good question.
Here's the next one. You're not going to believe this one.
So it's not being attacked necessarily, but it's not letting you be truthful about things.
Do you think Christians in other Arab countries are treated better than Christians in Israel and Palestine?
Well, I can only go from my times of being there. In Lebanon too. At the time I was there were churches, and they were part of the society. Yeah. So there was nothing wrong with being a Christian. And in Syria, when I would now who knows what's going to happen? But certainly the time when I was there.
Well, Israel controls those countries now. So.
Well, they're trying to make inroads. Yeah. Well, what did they do first? They bombed after Assad went down. They get rid of all the military. So what is the point of Abu Jalani being there now, the ISIS head? Without who is he serving? Is he serving the Syrian people or the Israeli people?
What's the answer?
Right now, it looks like he's serving Israel.
What's so surprising is that you think of, or in the United States, people think of Israel as like this foothold of Western civilization in the Middle East. And so you would imagine the Christians would do a lot better under Israeli control than they would under Assad's control. But
no, that's not the case at all. That's it. Definitely not the case at all.
So Christians are worse off under Israel's control than Assad's control. And the head of ISIS, or one of the dudes tied back to ISIS, the now leader of Syria, Jalani, he's advancing the cause of Israel now. Is that what I just heard her say?
Yeah. Brannon, listening to her now and listening to what you said about Marxism and all of that, it's kind of crystallizing to me what's going on here. That, it's really at the end of the day, it's what your theology is. And did you hear her before call out those Zionists?
Yep, the Christian Zionists. I sure did.
You need to understand, the viewers need to understand that here in Israel, and probably most of the Middle East, but I'm going to say in Israel, and I've lived here for 34 years, the term Christian is a very loaded term. That can mean anything.
It's little c. It's what my friend Jimmy D. Young used to refer to as little c Christian.
Yeah. Well, here...
we would say big C Christian, someone we know has placed their faith and trust in Christ, and is a true believer, versus little c Christians. That could be of any various stripe or denomination that just claims to be a Christian, but their theology may not line up at all, even in the area of salvation, with a theology or teaching of what Jesus taught. That's theology, theos, God, what he taught through his son, Jesus Christ, the Holy Spirit, what is the way to salvation. And they can say they're a Christian, but their theology isn't lining up with the Bible. But they would call themselves Christians, and we would say little c Christians. So in the Middle East, you can be a, quote, Christian, but we would do that with a little c because we don't really know. We have to know, who do you say Jesus is? How do you define the gospel, right?
Exactly. And here in Israel, the majority, and when I say the majority, I'm talking about 95% of the Christians who I would call Greek Orthodox, Russian Orthodox, and Catholic. That's when I use that term Christian in Israel. Greek, Russian Orthodox, and Catholic. And the majority of those are what I would call cultural Christians.
So they would be little c Christians.
That would be little c Christians. But now, I'm not saying they don't have a relationship with the Lord, and I'm not saying that they're not brothers and sisters. I'm not saying that. I'm saying that they would say I'm a Christian because I was born into a Christian family. I grew up in a Christian culture. It's a cultural Christianity, and they get fed here and fed there. But the majority of their teaching, as I said before, it's either a liberation theology, it's either a replacement theology, and here's a big danger, Brannon, a nationalistic ideology. A nationalistic ideology where they plug in to the poor victim Palestinians. They meet a family that have suffered, and there is suffering on both sides, and they get plugged into that. And so what do? They fight for a national homeland for the Palestinian. Now, let me tell you, this issue of nationalism is a very fragile topic, because let me speak from a Messianic Jewish perspective. I also can be guilty of being too nationalistic. I can say, well, I'm Jewish. This is our homeland. Anyone living here has to, follow the law, but I can go overboard. I can become like a zealot 2,000 years ago. And I don't believe that's what the true gospel is all about. The true gospel is loving and living together in peace. Of course, if the people living in your borders don't want to live with peace, then you have to defend yourself. So I'm not a pacifist. But what I'm saying is politics and ideology is secondary. The gospel is first. And I would say the majority of Christians, they have their ideologies, their nationalistic ideologies. They want to pull down the state of Israel. They don't even want to recognize the state of Israel. And they want to, in place, put a Palestinian state, which they don't realize it's not going to be Christian, Brannon. It's going to be Muslim. It's going to be controlled by radical Muslims. So, they need to wake up. It's crazy.
Well, listen to this, because it gets worse. Here we go.
Also, the St. Porphyrius Church from the 3rd century was bombed. We also have in the Orthodox...
How did a Christian church get bombed?
Because it's part of Palestinians. And all there, I've been there before. And basically, that it's the Holy Family Church and the Baptist Church. They're all pretty much in the same area, so you can't make a mistake. And Christians
So
through
you don't think that was an accident?
No, nothing's an accident. I mean, occasionally a shell might go off, but no. And certainly the last time with the one where they pointed at the cross. You don't miss that. Well, at the Holy Family Church, the cross didn't topple, but literally inches from it. And I have, in Nablus at Jacob's Well, there's a large church now, and there's crosses on the front face in circles. And the monk always points out to us when I go there, there's a tank shell that was aimed at that cross. You can still see it from an earlier confrontation in Nablus. So don't tell me these soldiers make mistakes. You could, the church in Gaza has, it's pointed and the cross is there in the middle of it by itself. So it's hard to believe that it wasn't.
So what would you say? What would you say to Ted Cruz, the self-proclaimed Christian, supporting tank shells fired at crosses? Like, what is that?
Well, I would say, again, it's to disabuse of the notion. It's those same talking points that the congressman gave. Well, but Hamas is the problem and they're terrorists. Well, Hamas is not the problem. So don't use that as an excuse anymore. And we have to defend Christian values, American values. And dignity, freedom for people. Isn't that what we're all about? Having their rights.
So Hamas is not the problem.
Yeah.
Wait a minute. Here we are on the evening of August 12th, 2025, and Hamas is still holding hostages, starving them to death. But it's not their fault. Hamas comes over the border October 7th, 2023, murders 1,200 Jews, rapes some of them, gang rapes them, cuts off the feet of babies, puts a baby in an oven, behead people, set people on fire. But it's not Hamas's fault. It's Israel's fault. Is that what she just said? And by the way, they're also targeting these churches on purpose, and she's pretty well sure of that.
Yeah.
And
exactly.
and good old Tucker here, he just seems like he must have gotten some really bad PR from his squabble with Ted Cruz and trying to entrap Ted because Ted couldn't cite the chapter and verse for I'll bless those who bless you and curse those who curse you, which I think is Genesis 12, verse 3. But he couldn't cite that verse and chapter and verse. Then Tucker had to go, you mean you don't know that? And really went after him, and it didn't go well. So apparently, I'm guessing that Tucker here is losing viewers. He's exposed himself, I think. And he seems to now really have it out for Ted Cruz because he keeps bringing up Ted.
Yeah. Brannon, if you cut off the funding, the financial, material, and weapon funding to the radicals, and the radicals leave, then you'll have peace, because lots of Arabs, even Palestinians, they want to live in peace. They want to live with Israelis. And what that lady obviously doesn't know, if you go back to the 1970s and go back to the 1980s, Israeli Jews went and broke bread with many Arabs in the West Bank, in Jericho, in Bethlehem. We had peace. We used to go in and out all the time. She doesn't know that. But what happened? The radicals took over. This is the problem. And she obviously is deceived. She doesn't get it.
Is she deceived? Does she not know that? Or is she a propagandist?
Yeah, good question.
Again, you're being very gracious to say she just doesn't know these facts. I'm not sure that's the case.
Yeah, and I could well be deceived myself.
I don't know if you're being deceived. I wouldn't say you're deceived yourself. I would just say you're being very gracious. I smell a rat.
Yeah. Well, I've heard too many stories I can't say you're wrong, because I've heard too many stories where people like this, very nice, decent dressed people who are Christians, but again, they take on an ideology or a theology, and what did the Lord say? Wolves in sheep's clothing.
But if she's a wolf in sheep's clothing, does that make her a Christian? No, it does not. You can't be a wolf in sheep's clothing and be a Christian. You can't be a goat and be a lamb.
Well, that's it. I'm not going to judge.
I know you're not, but I'm just saying if we say she's a Christian, which you said a while ago, and then you say we have to be aware of her being a wolf in sheep's clothing, again, we have to start saying, look, I'm not the ultimate judge, God is, but she's starting to espouse theology and things that don't line up with the Bible, and we have to start asking what source is she plugged in with? Is she plugged into the Holy Spirit, or is she plugged into the spirit of the age?
Yeah, I think one of the reasons why I don't want to, I mean, it's a good question. Is she a Christian? It's a fair question.
Well, I'm only bringing it up because you said she's a Christian, and I'm saying I'm not so sure she is. And then you went and said that she might be a wolf in sheep's clothing, which I'm saying she can't be both.
Yeah. Well, the thing is, many years ago, I went to Bible college, seminary, and my faculty advisor, one of the most godliest, saintliest men that I've ever met in my life, he, not in a dogmatic way, but he believed in replacement theology. And he said to me in genuinely loving way, look, I find it hard to see in the scriptures, and I would point him to the scriptures. Romans 9, 10, 11, I would point to the prophecies. And it was like there was a veil there.
Yeah, and I'm not saying that if someone believes in replacement theology, they're not a Christian. I'm not saying that. But when you start spewing the things she's spewing, one has to start questioning what source is she plugged in with.
Yeah, well, look at Martin Luther, Brannon, the great reformer. The great reformer. He was
who was so anti-Semitic, he was quoted 3 times by Adolf Hitler in Mein Kampf.
No one can question some of his theology was brilliant.
Yep.
But he was in error. He was deceived in a certain error. 1 Timothy 4:1 says that in the last days some will depart from the faith, giving heed to seducing spirits and doctrines of demons. And so, but Paul did say they will depart from the faith. So that is an open door that he's left there.
Yep. All right, here's the next one.
Isn't that what we're all about? Having their rights?
What happens on the Temple Mount? What is the Temple Mount? Can you explain what that is?
Well, the Temple Mount is the area where the temple existed at the time of Christ.
In Jerusalem.
In Jerusalem, right. Directly, I lived in the convent of St. Mary Magdalene on the Mount of Olives. Directly in front of me is the Dome of the Rock, and there's the old wall, the walls of the old city. And within that is the area where the temple existed, right? There was also a Byzantine church at one point in the 5th century. Because where the Dome of the Rock is where Abraham sacrificed or was going to sacrifice his son Isaac.
Yeah.
So it's holy to all monotheistic traditions.
Yes.
And so on the left side, if you're looking from the convent where I was at, is the Wailing Wall. That's a portion of the temple that still exists, a wall. And so some, just like the Christian Zionists, the Jews want the temple rebuilt. So I know Christians who have been there who will take a sign and go take the crescent off the dome and say, we'll put a cross on there. It's natural to all of them to do. So there is this movement to rebuild the temple. All the time I was there, I heard about that, but and there was small movement of it.
But there's a mosque where the temple was.
Yeah, now it's Al-Aqsa Mosque. It's the 3rd holiest site for Muslims in the world. And a lot of confrontations you have is because Israel will control getting in and out, being able to go there. So, or they'll say only men over 50 can go to the mosque today. And there's a lot of confrontations there and people have been killed. So it is a mosque. Yeah, there's a functioning Al-Aqsa Mosque is there.
But so you can't build the temple with a mosque there.
No. And they say that they have the plans for rebuilding the temple and everything. And people like Ben Gvir, the minister who's a religious zealot, have gone on the Temple Mount. And it's a provocation. The area is controlled by religiously by Jordan, but there's an organization that's responsible for that area.
Okay, so you hear people say we're going to rebuild the temple, the 3rd temple, but there's a mosque there. So what's the plan for the mosque?
Well, I guess it would be to blow it up.
And then you just said that's the 3rd holiest site in
Islam, of course. Yeah. This would be a dark day for anybody.
So then what would happen if you blew up the 3rd holiest site in Islam?
Well, you could probably answer that better than me. it certainly would ignite a great conflict in the world.
I just want to say this out loud because people sort of blithely talk about it.
What we're really coming to, and I think
Yeah,
that's the problem with the Christian Zionists is that what is your end game here?
Well, that's
their belief tells them that's okay. We want to have this third world war because we're going to be taken away, and we'll be okay, and we'll come back later after all the fighting's done. That's sort of basically what their theology tells them. And in the meantime, all the Jews are supposed to convert to their brand of Christianity or die in the conflagration.
And so I'm asking you this because you're a nun.
Right.
That's not a Christian. It's not
a Christian belief, no, or precept. Yeah.
Huh. Any idea where that came from? That idea?
The rapture?
Yeah.
Well, like I said, originally the idea of having the 1,000-year kingdom is a heresy that was in the early church, but the real push of all that comes from the 1830s. James Darby, Schofield, or John Darby, Schofield. It's it's a new theology that has no basis in the foundations of Christianity. It has nothing to do with it.
How do you think this story ends?
Francis, and you got Donald Trump recently went there a few months ago. We're saying, hey, this is laying the foundation for an interfaith dialogue. We might end up with both of them together. But she's leading it to sound like we all Zionists want to blow up the mosque. Baloney.
Firstly, that's not what I was going to say, even though I agree with that. What I was going to say is that when we all talk about it online here, we talk about what the scriptures say.
That's true.
Not our opinion what's going to happen. What does the scriptures say? The scriptures say, not what Zionists say. What does the Bible say? The Bible says that there's going to be an abomination that causes desolation. That 2 Thessalonians, a man of lawlessness will sit in the temple of God as God. That's the scriptures. So that's what we always talk about. And then we also add and say, well, we don't need a temple because of the sacrifice of the Lord. Mm-hmm. But the scriptures point that it's going to happen. So she and Tucker Carlson, they didn't mention anything of what the scriptures say. They didn't mention anything about end time prophecy, nothing about that. And that's what really surprised me as I was listening.
And by the way, she thinks we're all for World War III so we can get taken out. And yet on this broadcast, we have been the most anti-World War III people on the planet.
Well, let me tell you, and I am being very gracious to her, I got to admit. But let me tell you, there are lots of Christians that come, and I'll take groups up, and they'll whisper in my ear, and they'll say, when are you guys going to blow this mosque up? They do. They say it.
Well, I've never said it.
Oh, right.
That I'm aware of. I always show a map with them sitting next to each other because I think at the end that's what's going to happen.
Right. Yeah. Ecumenicalism, multi-faith.
Yep.
Absolutely.
All right. What does she think is the purpose of Hamas? You're sitting down for this one, right?
Oh.
We have to plaster them as being these jihadists when they're nothing like that.
Are they, I'm sure you've dealt with Hamas or know people who are, right? Are they religious fanatics? Are they jihadis?
Not the people that I know. Like I said, when I was again at the school, we had a couple teachers, Muslim men, and there were some elections going on. And it wasn't Hamas then. It was the social party or something. It was definitely a Muslim religious party. I would have voted for those guys because they weren't corrupt. They wanted to serve their people, and that's what it was about. So I'm not saying it doesn't happen anywhere. I'm not totally ingrained in the community, but the vibe there isn't one of wanting everybody to convert to Islam and forcing it upon them at all. And the purpose of Hamas is primarily to resist and to protect their people and their land.
To resist and protect their people while they steal the food. Logan, can you bring up the latest of the trucks barreling through Gaza as they blow past the people?
When she said protect their people, who are their people?
Those that have converted to Islam.
Yeah, and those that agree with everything they say, or otherwise their throats will get cut. That's their people.
it's not just Palestine and Israel where the Christian population has shrunk. It seems like throughout the Levant.
Yes. And I think that's part of the whole greater Israel project. Isn't it so ironic that they've made such a big
Targeting Christians.
Targeting Christians, yeah. Well, targeting to make control for Israel, for example, in Syria.
All right, the Greater Israel Project. But look. There's the latest, Aaron. There you go. That's Hamas taking care of their people as they grab up all the food and run with it. Taking care of their people. I mean, I should have played some of these clips first because maybe you'd be in the same boat with me because I'm not giving this woman any pass at all.
Brannon, I loved what she said, that last statement. The Greater Israel Project.
And what is that? Because that's going all over social media now, that this is all about, and Trump helping to create the Greater Israel.
I'll tell you what I think it is. It's biblical prophecy that God is going to give the land.
Well, that's the millennial kingdom. That's the millennial kingdom, and that's when they're going to get all the land described in Genesis 15, correct?
Yeah.
And yet she just said that the idea of a millennial kingdom is heresy. You heard her say that a while ago.
I heard that. Yeah. But when she makes a statement, the Greater Israel Project, there's a bit of venom behind it because she doesn't see it that the religious Jews, or she doesn't see the hand of God behind us defending ourselves. And in the line of defense, we take over land. She doesn't see that. She sees it all as us dominating, but that's not the case at all. We're defending ourselves. She doesn't see that we didn't throw the first stone, so to speak.
Mm-hmm. All right, one more. We got to wrap it up.
In Palestine.
Yes, well,
and Israel.
That makes sense.
Absolutely.
Were you there? There was a siege at the Church of the Nativity in Bethlehem, birthplace of Jesus. Yeah. Maybe 2002. I remember.
Oh yes, I was there. Yeah. I had. That's where I became especially close to the Palestinian Christian community because in Bethany there aren't that many Christians, but we had teachers from there and students from there, the boarding students. And when the siege happened, it wasn't just a siege on the church itself. What they claimed was that there were some fighters that were in the church which actually that's a Christian tradition, for people to take refuge in a church. But the Israelis used that as a way to, they besieged the church but the whole town was under siege, not just the church. So that meant that the teachers who lived in the Bethlehem area couldn't get out of Bethlehem to come over to Bethany. People couldn't get food and medicines. After a while, it became, I would get calls and saying, my neighbor has epilepsy and we cannot get a new medication for her. Can you find a way to get something in, through a care organization into us? And finally, when the siege ended during that time, I remember a doctor telling me describing how someone had been shot in his house. And he was bleeding to death. And he was calling the doctor, what do I do? What can I do? And the doctor literally heard him just bleed to death during that because no ambulance, nothing was allowed. And after the 40 days, roughly 40 days, which is ironic, I went in there and I met up with some of the people. Everything was strewn with garbage all over the streets, the bullet holes. What Israel likes to do is destroy. Not only do they control the place, but they almost take glee. And we're not talking about Hamas time. We're not talking about, 2023. We're talking about 2002. They would go through the town of Bethlehem and purposely with their tanks, the smaller ones, like knock over the light poles or the things that are garnished with Christmas trees, decorations and things, and knock them over in the middle of town, or pull their bulldozer and smash a car. But again, that same resiliency of the Palestinians, the Samud, I have a photograph.
Aaron, you want to respond to that?
Okay, now I'm not going to be so nice, okay? Now she's crossed the line when she said Israel's love destroying things. I'm sorry. This is a war.
Can I just ask you real quick? Do you believe this woman has an agenda? And what is it?
Okay, going back to the gracious side, I know many people like this, Brannon. She quoted a number of her friends who either were dying, bleeding to death, or they needed medicine and they couldn't get it. Brannon, I know people like that as well. They get trapped, like Hamas firing from schools and hospitals. The innocent people suffer because of the evil people. I agree with that. Do you know what? When my fourth child was 3 months old, he had bad whooping cough, and he was turning blue. Because his lungs hadn't quite developed. He was coughing and he couldn't breathe properly. We had to rush him to the hospital in the car. On the way, Brannon, there was a roadblock because there was a terrorist threat. They wouldn't let us get through, Brannon. And I got out of the car. I said, my son is dying. They wouldn't let me get through. Now, do I say the Israelis are evil? No, I don't say that. I say it's because of the evil people this has happened. And if my son, thank God he didn't die, but if he had died, I wouldn't have pointed the finger at the army because they wouldn't let me through. I would say, why wouldn't they let me through? Because of the evil perpetrators. And that's the one side that she is giving. Israel does not go into the Church of Nativity and blow it up or put it under siege for no reason. Our High Court of Justice would never allow our political leaders to make decisions like that. Our public wouldn't allow our political leaders to make decisions like that. It's all nonsense. Now I've not much grace for what she's saying.
Do you think she's lying?
Like I said, I think she's been influenced by her friends who.
Do you think she knows she's not telling the truth? Or do you think she herself is deceived?
I think there's a level of deception. I think she's swallowed the pill of the victim. I think she's only been fed the half truth, which is, in a sense, a lie.
And why do you think Tucker Carlson keeps interviewing these kind of people with no one to counter?
I don't know. Now, I could be wrong. All I'm saying is I can't say for sure that she's outrightly lying and she's being paid to do it. I don't know, Brannon. But I do know people like her who genuinely. I had a friend, he was a blind Arab man. He was in his 70s, Albert. His house, Brannon, got blown up by the IDF. His house got blown up. And he came into the shop where I was working. I used to work in a Messianic bookshop for 12 years in the old city of Jerusalem. He came in brokenhearted. He told me what had happened. And I said, Albert, I'm so sorry. He was blind. And he whispered in my ear because he didn't want to say it out loud. He said, I don't blame the Israelis. I know very well why they did it. Because the terrorists were firing from my bedrooms and my kitchen. That's what he said to me. Poor Albert. Thank God he's gone to be with the Lord now. So he wasn't deceived. He knew what was going on. He had to be careful speaking up about it. And maybe that's her problem. Maybe it's fear. Maybe she doesn't want to speak out the whole side.
Well, then she should agree not to do the interviews because.
That's fine. I agree because she's doing damage. She's doing damage by saying that all the Israelis want to do is destroy. Wow, that was a tough one.
All right, here's her closing comment.
Has no basis in the foundations of Christianity. It has nothing to do with it.
How do you think this story ends?
It depends on us. And that's why, maybe I part of me wants to have that message of that we have to do something politically. The Christians have to wake up and tell because it's all in the hands of the United States. It doesn't matter what any other country in the world does. If the U.S. protects Israel, this will continue. And we will get to that conclusion of the denouement, which will lead to a third world war or something of that sort, for sure. So, but also in a spiritual sense, then we also have to recognize, what do we want to be as people? Do we want to follow the way of Christ? Or do we want to follow the way of a Christ who leads us to a better world? We live in this world as best we can in order to prepare for the world to come. Christ came and said, my kingdom is not of this world. So if you're truly a believing Christian, you want to do all the things that will put you in good graces with God when it comes to Judgment Day, right? And that doesn't mean rebuilding the temple. It means living like a Christian and trying to build a society that lives by Christian principles, and your government acting as one that acts by Christian principles. And so that doesn't mean slaughtering other people and leading to their cleansing.
So let me say, the way to get God's grace is by having a Christian government and a Christian society. I think Jesus called out the religious leaders of his day who were trying to have a moral religious society. And he didn't say, "Oh, boys, you got my grace." He says, "Your whitewashed tomb is full of dead men's bones. Your father is the devil." You know, Christian values in government and society are great, but that is not what brings God's grace. What brings God's grace, we all know, is his son, Jesus Christ, paying his ultimate price, the ultimate price for our sins as restitution for our sins. He who knew no sin became sin for us that we might become the righteousness of God. Placing our faith and trust in Christ has nothing to do with Christian moralizing at all. And she is so wrong on so many levels, again, to say that somehow this is what Christianity, biblical Christianity, Christian Zionism is about. It's not.
I think she got the order around wrong, Brannon. She started off by saying, we need political answers, or words to that effect. She started to go politically. Then at the end, she said, we need to live as Christ lived. And I was thinking, wow, finally, she's turning around to what the Bible teaches, but she got it around the wrong order. Where did I hear, when he asked, how's it going to, what's the answer? I didn't hear her say pray. I didn't hear her say love your enemies. I didn't hear her say any of that. And what you've just alluded to, the cross, the message of reconciliation with God, that is the foundation, and prayer. But to have expectations that every government is going to live by the Christian values, she's living in a different planet. So I think she's misinformed. I think she needs to sit down and really go to the Lord and ask the Lord, what can I do to be a peacemaker? But by pointing out Israel, what is it? What did the Lord say? He let him who has no sin cast the first stone. She seemed to be casting a lot of stones at Israel and talking about...
And not just Israel, Christians, Christian Zionists, America, American churches, American citizens. Well, this isn't going over very well for Tucker. My buddy Daniel Greenfield has commented on the page underneath this player. This is right under the player of Tucker's interview. That's George Stephanopoulos' sister, as in Clinton's operative. Tucker might as well just admit he's become a Democrat operative. Here's Vivid, a great Twitter feed. Christians are safe, respected, and cherished in Israel. Christians are being slaughtered in Muslim countries. You're not fooling anyone. You have just reached a new low, Tucker. You're a disgrace. LOL, yes, ignore every demographic statistic. Just claim Israel's Christians are declining based on anecdote. Lies won't solve problems. Israel has had a large Christian growth since 1948. And it goes on and on.
Brannon,
not going well for Tucker.
Part of me wants to believe that Tucker is genuinely looking for answers. He's looking to find out what's really going on. And so he gets someone who calls herself a Christian, her perspective. Why doesn't he get someone like a Messianic Jew to give another different perspective?
Yep. Well, Fred here says, if the name Agapia Stephanopoulos sounds familiar, it's because she's the sister of Obama's and Clinton's pal, George Stephanopoulos. She was born Anastasia, but took the name Agapia when she took her vows to become a Greek Orthodox nun. She's a notorious anti-Semite who works for the PA, that'd be the Palestinian Authority.
She actually works for them.
Well, I'm just reading what's here, but when I told you I want to follow the money, this is what I'm talking about.
Well, Brannon, you were right. You were right. She works for them. There you go. There's the money. That's where the money comes from.
Connect the dots, folks, instead of listening to the paid charlatan Tucker Carlson. That's what the person said. Well, we should do some more digging to see if she really does work for the Palestinian Authority, but that's very interesting. Tucker, I'm an indigenous Christian living in Israel. The woman you interviewed is not. I can't believe how many lies just came out of her mouth. Many people have asked you to interview me, yet you've ignored me. Is truth important to you? Let's talk. And this is Shadi, whatever. He's founder of Israeli Christian Aramaic NGO. He's a former Knesset, looks like. Yeah. Israel's the only safe haven for Christians in the entire Middle East. The only place where the numbers are actually growing.
Avi Yemeni, I know very well of him. He's a Jewish man, lives in Australia, and he's not a believer, but he's very, very pro-Israel, and he loves the Christians.
Funny how Tucker won't mention this. Qatar Christians potentially face being sentenced to death if they're discovered to be Christians. It's likely that most Qatari Christians who are killed for their faith die at the hands of their own families. I think I know that guy. Yeah, that guy's been in my studio before. Let's see. Paul Revere. I mean, there's just so much here. Not going well for him, for Tucker. Yeah. Well, there you go. Well, we just did tonight what Tucker Carlson apparently won't do. We played one side and then we answered it. Played one side, then we answered it. Tucker, here's the question. Are you too much of a coward to have me on your broadcast? You want to talk theology and doctrine and eschatology? Invite me, Tucker. But I don't think you got the guts to do it. And how about having Aaron on? I'll give you a cell phone number. Just text me, Tucker. But again, I don't think you got the guts to do it. I think Tucker's a little girl. Hiding behind a fake laugh and his chubby little face. Aaron?
Well, Paul said to Timothy, Brannon, all scripture is inspired by God, and it's useful for correction, for teaching. And that's what we use to lead us into the truth of what is going on past, present, and future. Not humanism. Paul wrote to the Colossians and talked about, what was it? Vain philosophy. And this, their own ideas and their agendas. And I don't. Did you hear any of them mention a verse from the Bible? I didn't.
No, but you and I quoted plenty.
Yeah, that's right. And that's what I said before. That is the basis of where we're coming from.
I don't think Tucker knows the Bible. And if he would let me interview him live or I interview him, we'd find that out real quick, I think. That Tucker doesn't know the Bible.
Yeah, and remember we watched him take on Ted Cruz. And sadly, I don't think Ted Cruz knows the Bible that well either.
I agree with that.
He really needs to have someone that, maybe why doesn't he get a true biblical Zionist? Why doesn't he talk to Mike Huckabee, someone like him?
Yep, indeed. LikeToTheNationsMinistry.com. Aaron Levarko, always great, Aaron. You do a great job. Thank you, Aaron.
Thank you. God bless.
We'll be right back after this.
News is moving faster than ever, and so are we. Worldview Tube brings you 24/7 live stream coverage and now real-time alerts when it matters most. Once you have the Worldview Tube app installed, exit the app and navigate your way to Settings. In Settings, locate the tab labeled Notifications. Select the Notifications tab. Scroll down until you locate the Worldview Tube app icon. Select the tab, and here you can turn on and customize your notification experience for the Worldview Tube app. News doesn't wait, and neither should you. Turn on push notifications to stay informed. Every headline, as it happens,